Warning. This podcast contains explicit sexual language and should only be listened to at work if you're looking for an excuse to connect with your HR representative. Additionally, all mentions of the word women include cis and trans women. If you are genderqueer, gender fluid, figuring it out, anything in between, and feel like this conversation is also important for you, you are welcome here.
Will you open up with me? These pages, they can feed your innermost desires. Do you feel inspired? Are you getting what you need? Are you coming curiously? A secret safe with me. And here you can simply be yourself. Sweet romance. Come on in, come on in, come on.
Hi, y'all. This is Jace, she, they, and you have found Jace Reads Romance, a community dedicated to empowering women about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. I am shocked and also so happy that we are done with January because it felt like January was 47 years long. Like the fact
so
that
long.
I am like, how do I not have gray hair? How have I not celebrated my 60th birthday? I don't understand it.
I know.
But
for like the last,
yeah.
ever since COVID, I feel like January has just gotten longer and longer and longer.
I don't know if it's like this for you, because if you don't know, I am in Chicago and Seffi is in Texas, and there is something about January in Chicago that it's the worst month. And I've figured this out over the years is I have to get out of Chicago, and it could be, it doesn't have to be somewhere warm. It just has to be out of Chicago in January, February, or I will lose my mind. Like, those years where it hasn't happened until March or April, they have been rough. And you can't see this, but it is just a sky of gray. So I'm not someone who normally has seasonal affective disorder. It's not, I don't need the sunshine. But when you're staring at just gray, not even rain, not even snow, just gray, it's so great for my lighting, but diffused lighling, but it's not. It just gets so repetitive, and it's just rough.
It's just blah. You feel like the weather, like you just feel gray, like it just.
And I can handle it for like a week or two, but I think there was one winter where Chicago had 42 days in a row of cloud coverage, and even I felt it. Even I was like, "What is happening?"
I think
what is going on.
That's one reason why I left the Midwest, because y'all, I grew up in Iowa, so it's similar to Chicago, similar enough. So no.
No, I grew up on the East Coast, baby. And people ask me when I came to Chicago, because I would complain about the winter, and they would say, "Well, you're from the East Coast. Don't you have winter there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I hate it too, but it's also different. It's just a different experience than the Midwest. There's something about a big body of water that just does different things to the weather, and you like Lake Michigan is great, but it doesn't count.
No, it doesn't. It's not the ocean. It doesn't count.
Not at all. Well, we are here to do my January wrap-up video, and we'll go through the books that I read, high level, what I thought about them, high level, what they are, and we'll go over my diversity stats for the month, because if you've been following along, they changed from 2024 into 2025 and how that's going for me. In January, I read 24 books. 8 of them were physical. So that was my goal, is to have somewhere between 8 and 10 books, each month be physical books so I could hit 100 physical books in the year 2025. So on point. And then in terms of my diversity goals, so this year I have upped them in terms of queer stories. I'm looking for 20% of my books to be queer stories, and 40% of my books I aim to be authors of color. And so that means that around 60% of my books, and I'll explain why in a second, are not cis het white books. And I think that is really exciting to me, that a majority of my books are moving away from that big algorithmic push of what I'm being told to read, and that I hopefully am breaking that cycle. Now, I am finding a lot of books that I'm reading, specifically queer, are also white, but I'm searching and finding and aiming for books that do both. And it's not because I want to, like hug two puppies with one arm, but it's
what? I have never heard that.
You've never heard that? Okay, this is where my like woo-woo previous life comes in. The phrase like kill two birds with one stone is very violent. And so someone I know says hug two puppies with one arm.
I love it so much better.
Yeah. So it's not that I want to hug two puppies with one arm, but it's that there are also queer humans of color and their stories deserve to be told. So some of the books that I've read did fit amongst those two groups, but I'm finding, like with so many things, you get one at a time. It's you're not getting a ton of crossover. You're not getting that intersectionality right away. So I'm looking for it. I'll find it. I'll get there. I know these stories are out there. If you have them, please share them with me in the comments, send me an email, all of those things, because I don't want to read one-dimensional stories either. So anyway, and I have to say, if you want to know the final stats, I read 10 books that were by authors of color, which was 41.67% of my books, and 6 books with queer stories, that was 25% of my books. And I will straight up state, I love an MMF. And that does account for some of my stories. And I also am striving to not just read the books that like are my favorite, that are the best, to tell lots of queer stories.
Yeah.
But there are a few of those here. Okay. I started 2025 short and sweet, Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. This is one of the Amazon Christmas novellas. I read one of them in 2024, and for some reason I think I wanted something light and fluffy because the next book was really heavy. It is about Jamie and Mac. It's a short story, less than 100 pages.
Oh geez.
I know, short. Sorry. These nicknames are funny because they are like friends to lovers from childhood, and so the nicknames they have for each other are from childhood. So one of them is Butt Paper and Marky.
I love that. That's amazing.
Oh, it's so fun. And it's best friends, brothers, mutual pining, miscommunication, snowed in. Ooh. Jamie and Mark have known each other literally since Mark was born. Jamie held Mark before his own sister held him. And Mark has been pining for years, but Jamie doesn't really believe him. And the last time they saw each other, he shot his shot with her, and she was having a really bad day, a really bad week. She's in residency in pediatrics, and she was like, "You don't love me," nothing. And then she called him and left a voicemail being like, "I was wrong. I'm sorry. I had a bad day. Of course I want you. Of course I love you. Let's give this a shot." And he never responded. And so she feels completely abandoned by him. It's Christmas, and her dad, who's a shit dad, let's just put that out there, sends her in a snowstorm to get a pan from his parents' house. And his parents are gone. And so he's there. She's like, "Hi, I need this pan." And he's like, "Your dad sent you out in a blizzard to get a pan?" She's like, "Yeah, I need it." And then they both look outside and he's like, you can't walk home in this. So they get snowed in and end up playing a drinking game where confessions happen.
Of course.
And I can't even, I was so shocked with how much story and emotional depth Ali Hazelwood put into this 100-page
Really?
short story. Yes, there's just so much pining and so much angst, and I'm gonna ruin it. Like if you haven't listened to one of these wrap ups, I ruin everything. Just ruin. So they're playing this drinking game, and she's like, "Are you mad at me because of what happened between us?" And I said no to you, and that's why you rejected me. And number one, he's like, I didn't reject you. I'm mad because I know how much you love me and how good we are together, and that us being apart is hurting you. Like, I'm mad because you just hurt yourself by saying no to me. And then she throws out, but you said no to me too. And he's like, what? She goes, I left you a voicemail. And he's like, Jamie, who the fuck listens to a voicemail? Like, there's this great moment where she's like emotionally dying inside and he starts to listen to the voicemail and then just drops his phone on the floor and grabs her.
Yes.
Just so good.
Oh
and
my gosh.
This is why, like, Ali Hazelwood really is one of my favorite writers. She does it so well. She does it so well. And I was so happy to start with that. Book number 2 was Immortal Dark by Tigris Girma. I'm in love with this world. I think that the world created is fascinating and dark and very, there's a lot of social commentary and it's very deep and it comes from a unique place that I loved that this exists.
Mm-hmm.
However, this book was so angry. Our main character, Keaton, is so angry and so irrational. And I get it. There's so much rage in her and it's justifiable in some ways, but also like she takes it to a 19-year-old place and it's so dark. And her emotional agony is so dark that the experience of being in her point of view was not fun. This was the book
hard.
At the end of 2024 that it took me almost 2 weeks to read because the experience of it was not fun. It took almost 300 pages for me to even just get in a groove to read it. 300 pages.
That's rough.
Now, having said that, am I going to buy the second one and read it? Yes, because this is Black vampire steeped in East African lore. Ooh. It's an all-Black cast.
I got goosebumps with that one.
I know. It's an all-Black cast. There's so much history and culture and like depth put into it that I can't leave this world. I can't leave this world. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But it's not fun. This is not a book you read if you want to necessarily feel better. It's also a series. It's not interconnected standalones. So at the end of this book, there is nothing resolved. There's nothing. And I think it's a trilogy.
That really rough narrator.
Yeah.
And then you don't have anything resolved. Ooh, that would be
hard. Not really.
So what you're saying is this isn't an Ali Hazelwood or an Abby Jimenez. This is not one of those.
Okay, Abby Jimenez will fuck you up. Don't even.
No, I admit that. I admit that. But
okay, no, this is a series, and oh my gosh, there's like a twist at the end, and it's so awful. It's so awful.
No.
It's also academia. Okay, so the premise of the story is Keaton has a twin sister. They are part of this family who is bound to these vampires. And her parents sent her and her sister away for her own protection, and she was raised by this woman who erases most of her culture, doesn't let her speak her native language, doesn't teach her her history, doesn't teach her where she comes from, doesn't teach her about the vampire community that she is integral to. And then her sister goes missing, and she witnesses a vampire taking her sister's bloodied corpse, as she perceives it, away. And so she's been searching for her sister for a year, and she has committed a murder, and we don't know who, we don't know why. We don't know why at first, but what we're told eventually is that she did it because she was doing it in search of her sister.
Right.
So she's in jail for murder, awaiting trial. Or actually, she's been released on bail because it turns out that this aunt of hers, who was the last member of her family, died, leaving the house, their family home, to her. And she either has to go and live in the house and go to this university and pass these exams to keep the house, or it goes to her family's vampire, who is the vampire she was told took her sister. It's so dark. Number 3, let's go complete opposite, The Kiss Countdown by Eddie Easton. This is a rom-com. It is a Mary and Vincent, and it is a fake dating, forced proximity, slow burn, black love romance, where a Mary and Vincent have a little bit of a not meet cute in her favorite coffee shop, where she spills coffee all over him and he's kind of a jackass. Like, not a jackass, but like sassy banter. And she's like, bitch, please. And then
she's like, I work retail. I don't have energy for you right now.
Oh, no, she doesn't work there. It's her favorite coffee shop. So she's a party planner who got fired and then dumped. Like, so she's not in a great place. And then her ex-boyfriend shows up at the coffee shop a couple days later with his new girl, like definitely trying to run into her. And she's like, no, I've got a new boyfriend. He is him. And Vincent has been walking into the coffee shop. And so Vincent shows up and is like, yep, I'm her boyfriend. I'm an astronaut. And in her brain, she's like, really? You're going to lie and say you're an astronaut? And then boyfriend leaves. And Vincent's sister walks in and goes, oh my gosh, you're his girlfriend that he's been telling the family about for months. And she's like, what? So it's double fake dating. And it turns out that Vincent is an astronaut.
That's even better. There's so much about that.
He's an astronaut. He is going on mission soon. His family hates it, wants him to quit. And he's like, if you need a place to stay because your apartment's really expensive and you're getting your own party planning business, event planning business off the ground, you can come stay in my house. I'm going on mission for 6 months in 2 months. If we're dating, we might as well be living together.
Apparently dating 4 months. So
it's great. So they go to like events for his family and things of that nature. So she's like, great, I get rent free, live in this place, save money, and I'll just show up to these family events with you. They're really sweet. And what I liked most about this is their compassion for one another. There were a lot of great moments where I was expecting or fearful of an overreaction, and instead we got compassion and connection.
I like that.
Though it does get a little silly at some points. I'm like, whoa, friends, this was an unnecessary step. Like, you just built this lie a little bit higher.
Oh, no.
But it was really sweet. I thought I enjoyed it a lot. Of course, I'm always going to want more of a burn. Like, a slow burn is never fun for me. And while there were things that were good about the spice, there just wasn't much of it. Eddie Easton has her next book coming out soon. I don't know who it's about, but I've probably pre-ordered it.
Probably.
Probably pre-ordered it already.
We need to get that merch made. Like,
I do. We do. Book number 4, A Love Like the Sun by Riss M. Nelson or Nielsen. I'm not sure how to say it. It is friends to lovers, fake dating, black love, health scare, and health crisis rep, and plus size rep. So Isaac and Lanaya have been best friends since Isaac moved across the street when they were 12. And Lanaya has always secretly liked him, but didn't want it to interfere with their friendship. We only get Lanaya's point of view in this.
Okay.
I don't know why I feel like that's an important thing to say for this book. But Isaac is an artist and now lives in LA as an influencer artist model because he's beautiful. And Lanaya and her mother had opened up a natural hair care store, and it is closing. They're about to close their business, and she hasn't told Isaac. She doesn't want to tell him. She feels really embarrassed, but he shows up and figures it out. And so he posts a picture of the two of them mentioning her, because posts a picture of her doing his hair and tags the business.
Yeah.
And business booms.
Well,
and he tagged her like, this is my boo, or this is my baby. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, look, if my social media clout gets your business, your dream off the ground, I want to. He also has like a weird following about his love life. I didn't really understand it, but his love life is very important to his brand. And so dating Lanaya kind of helps him with that. He had gone through a weird breakup before, and people were like, oh, are you not like sweet and wonderful and amazing? And he is. He just wasn't right with the other person. So they start fake dating so that he can, that his clout can help her business and so that she can help his reputation. And because they're fake dating, all of these boundaries that they've had over the years as friends break apart, and the chains of their attraction disintegrate. And it is beautiful. She's got a lot of emotional baggage. Let me just put that out there. Her dad died of heart failure and heart disease. She watched her mother suffer through that and just be devastated from that, and lose herself in the loss of this love. And then Lanaya also goes through gaslighting for a quite severe medical condition, we find out, which unfortunately happens way too often.
You can see my face. Those watching can see my face, how I felt about that.
Yeah. So we watch her be gaslit by her male doctor as she asks him again and again about things that she's feeling.
Yeah.
And finally gets a new doctor who immediately sees what her other doctor ignored, and it's quite serious. And I believe it was inspired by the author's own experience with that. So please advocate for yourself. And if a doctor doesn't believe you, find a new fucking doctor.
Yes, always.
That's it. The spice was good. I will say that while it felt slow burn-y. I think it was 48% of the way through the book and not 50, which is my technical line for a slow burn. Once we got there was some good, dirty talk, sexy times. I love there was a moment of if I just ask you to sex me this once, can you do it? But number 5 was My Best Friend's Honeymoon by Meryl Wilsner. This was an arc, so this book is not out yet. It comes out later this year. It is FNB, so female non-binary, Elsie and Ginny. Oh, I'm just going to throw this out there. The middle portion of this book is straight fucking for a good 20 to 25%, maybe even more of this book. Straight up fuck fest.
Wow.
I'm not mad about it.
That's wow.
It's so much sex. So it's friends to lovers, forced proximity, third act breakup, plus size rep. So we have Elsie and Ginny. And the one thing I really do appreciate about this book is that Meryl never made Elsie's fiance, the villain in this story. So Elsie and her fiance, I don't even remember his name. Doesn't even matter. But they've been engaged. She's like, I'm too busy to plan the wedding. I can't do it right now. And so what does he do? Because he thinks this is a kind, loving gesture, he plans a surprise wedding for her. It's so sweet. He books a venue, he invites their friends and family, he gets her a dress, he plans a honeymoon, and he surprises her. And it's like, we're getting married in a week. I wanted it off your plate. And I thought if I did it all, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. And then we'd be married.
Aww. But
it was so sweet.
It's very sweet.
She wasn't planning the wedding because she just didn't want to marry him. And she didn't know how to break up with him. And so he's obviously disappointed, but he accepts it. And he says, you know what, you should go on the honeymoon. And she's like, no, you should really go on the honeymoon. It's non-refundable and you pay for it. And he goes, yeah, but I'd just be too sad. And you should go with your best friend, Ginny. They would make you feel better on this trip. Again, wonderful man, just not right for Elsie.
Yeah.
So she and Ginny go on this honeymoon to a queer resort because Elsie is pansexual and her fiance always supported her sexuality and was like, see how wonderful. We'll go to a queer resort because you're queer.
Oh
again, so wonderful. Such a wonderful human, just wrong for Elsie.
Yeah.
And Elsie and Ginny go, and Ginny has been carrying a torch for Elsie since middle school. And at one point shot her shot and asked Elsie to a dance, and Elsie shot her down. While Ginny uses they, she pronouns in their point of view chapters, only refers to themselves as her/she once. So I'm going to use they.
Okay.
Since that's what we hear most of the time. Number 6, Broken Beginnings by Cleo Evans. Now, the reason I read this is because I got Stolen Chances, the second book in the series, as an arc. Started it, got a chapter in and went, no, I need to read the first one. The events of the first book are too integral to the plot of this book. I don't know what's happening and I need to figure this out. So this is a MF redeemed bully, small town romantic suspense, stalker but not the main character romance. And this was the moment when I went, I think I like romantic suspense, which is different in my brain than dark romance. Dark romance and even Morley Gray is about the couple. Mm-hmm. This romantic suspense is about shit going on around the couple.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we've got Haley and Cameron. Cameron is the MMC. Haley in high school, Cameron bullied the fuck out of her. And he's like, it was like I pulled your pick. No, he's like, there's no justifiable reason for what he did. And like, he gets it and he grovels real good. But Haley hates Cameron, hates the small town, leaves. And the reason she's coming back is she witnessed a neighbor of hers get murdered.
I was going to say, it's got to be a mystery of some type.
Yeah, it's got to be a mystery. She witnessed a neighbor get murdered. And as the murderer fled the scene, he said, "You're next" to her. And so she's emotionally recovering from that, from witnessing that, from like being on edge. And so she, in thinking, where can I go that I'll feel safe? She goes back to the small town. And she has an estranged relationship with her grandmother and her sister, and of course the town in general. And she gets thrown together with Cameron, who, like I said, he grovels so good. The story starts with a flashback to high school where Cameron is an asshole and pours beer on her at a house party and then gets the fuck beat out of him by his older brother for being an asshole. Like, yes, his brother knew. And like, there was a moment when he's like, my mama definitely raised me to be better. I'm like, yeah, you should have been better. And I'm glad that Hunter beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
So
yes,
I'm glad Hunter beat the shit out of you. Thank you. So but like, she gets invited to, you know, a friend's house for a bonfire and Cameron's there and he's like, you should pour a beer on me, and lets her pour, like kneels in front of her and like lets her cover him in beer. And it's like, no, I'm going to be covered in beer all night because I deserve it. And they've got this chemistry and he confesses that he actually liked her. And I'm like, can we do a little more groveling? But then the
Right,
stalker
right.
follows her and starts killing and attacking people and like burns down Cameron's business there. And so Cameron's whole family and her family are all trying to, you know, protect her and find the killer and what's going on. I ate it up. Ate it up.
I
Loved
love
it.
it.
Loved it so much. It's great. It's so great. It's so fucking great. I loved it. So I read that book and then jumped into Stolen Chances, which was book number 7. Again,
Mhm.
Cleo Evans, same small town. But this is an MMF book. It's
Oh,
about Sarah, who is Haley's older sister,
okay.
and Colton, who is Cameron's best friend, and Sammy, who is Cameron's younger brother.
Whoa. I was not expecting younger brother to come out of there. I thought you were going to say
Younger
Hunter.
Hunter, the older brother, he's got to be the fucking next book with Haley's best friend, Emma. I'm like so excited about that one too, because they loathe each other. They loathe each other. It's like a Zoom
Yes.
call. They start fighting, and I'm like, oh, this is going. The minute they started fighting on that Zoom call in Broken Beginnings,
You're
I
like,
thought, oh my gosh, this better be
this.
book 3.
Yes.
So Sarah is reeling from the events of the first book, and I actually don't want to spoil it for you because it's such a big reveal at the end of the first book, but so integral to the events of the second book. So Sarah is just reeling from the events of the first book, and she is trying to rebuild her life. She has twin boys who are struggling as much as she is because they're also in a small town, and small towns are assholes.
Yes.
So she's dealing with all of that. She's newly single. She's
Mhm.
rebuilding her life piece by piece. Colton is the one that got away. She and him had this
Mhm.
moment in high school, and then because of miscommunication that thank God we didn't have to live through, because I would have murdered them both if I'd witnessed it, broke them apart.
Mhm.
And but now she's single and he's there, and we could see in the first book how protective he was still over her and how much he still loved her. But Sammy's now in the picture because Sammy had never really spent time with Sarah, but
Yeah.
because of the events of the first book is now part of this group who, you know, had to find the bad guys and deal with the aftermath.
Yeah.
And he and Sarah start a flirt, and he's like, wow, I never noticed how hot she was. And she's like, wow, I never knew how hot he was. And then Colton and Sammy are both bisexual, and they've always kind of been attracted to each other,
Like
but
they
you're my
dance or-
brother's best
Yeah.
friend, you're my best friend's brother, like obviously no. And Colton is openly bisexual, like he's
Okay.
open, and Sammy is not openly bisexual, but not in the closet. He just doesn't tell anyone. He's just kind of a secretive dude.
Yeah.
He just doesn't,
Which is fair.
he's a secretive dude. He
Yeah.
is a musician, but he also makes cooking thirst trap videos for the internets.
Wait, like, are you talking about like the
Like Donut Daddy?
Donut Daddy, yeah.
Like Donut Daddy, yes. He makes cooking thirst trap videos and has an entire closet of kink gear.
Fuck yes.
It's so
This is
great.
amazing.
It's Cleo Evans. It's Cleo Evans. I don't think I've ever read anything Cleo Evans that wasn't like 50% kinky. Like maybe all the way
Yes.
kinky, but at least like 50% kinky.
There were
an
some-
entire closet of kink gear. But number 8 is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend. And this was my only real no of the month.
Really?
I know, it was really disappointing.
Yeah.
It is an FF, Queer Awakening historical romance. And here's the reason why it was a no for me. Because while this was about Gwen and Beth,
Who's it by?
it's by Emma R. Albin. I
Okay.
should say the author. And I have this book. I have her next book in this series, and I don't know if I want to read it. So it's about Gwen and Beth, and Beth is entering her first season. Her father recently died and did not bequeath anything to her and her mother. It went to an uncle who's throwing them out. So she needs to make a good match this season to live, for her and her mother to literally
in her
have
first
money.
season, she has to make a
First
match.
season.
Damn.
First season. And Gwen has a couple seasons. I think she's on her 4th. And she's like, I don't really want to get married. It's fine. And her dad's like, it's fine. You don't have to get married. Don't worry about it. And they meet and they become friends. And there's a queer awakening for both of them.
Mhm.
But the thing that I liked best about this book is Gwen and Beth discovered that their parents have a history. Her mother, Beth's mom, Gwen's dad, who's a widower, have a history and clearly both like each other. And so they
Oh.
basically try to parent trap their parents.
Yes.
And their parents' relationship was the most interesting thing to me.
Oh no. But that wasn't
They are,
the
in
point
fact-
of the story.
No, they are in fact terrible at parent trapping their parents. And it's not until Gwen's cousin come into play and actually make a plan that it works or even comes close to working. And so their machinations are done. Their machinations are terrible. They're
That's
not terribly
so
interesting.
funny.
There's a lot of teenage angst. Like,
Oof.
oh, I love her. She's gone. There's a lot of that. And
No, thank
also, the first time they sleep together, they're apparently good at it. I'm like, you didn't even know what queer was. How the hell are you getting a girl off? What is happening? I don't understand. Like,
And not
there's
to mention
no
the
way that you're
time
good
period.
at any of this. Well, they're good friends. Well, Gwen's dad actually has his her lady's maid and another head of the household are
Discussion,
a queer couple.
Oh, okay,
a
so
woman
she
couple.
has
So
a place where she can learn about it if she needed to.
I mean, she didn't officially know that they were a couple until midway through this book. But it's a very loving, both of their parents are like, we understand that you love each other. Maybe you could just be good friends, right? Good friends. And it just, their relationship was not exciting to me. Take Me Home was a close, not for me, second. It is by Melanie Sweeney, and it's a Christmas story that it takes place around Christmas. It's Hazel and Ash, loathe to love, forced proximity, a lot of pining, and then way too much family drama. Hazel is emotionally unavailable. Post her parents' divorce, her mother moved away, her dad kind of ignored her, and because of that experience, when people leave or she leaves and something ends, she's like, out of my life forever, which means after graduating from high school, she has never been back to her hometown. Ever.
Wow.
Right? Way to cut things out of your life.
Right? Damn.
Asher is from her hometown and was in fact best friends with her high school boyfriend. And they went to college together. And when she saw him at a party freshman year, she was like, I don't want you around because I'm over our blah, 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 blah. Now, several years later, they're both in grad school, or she's in grad school and he's also, I think, grad school, becoming an architect. And he works at her favorite coffee shop. So they see each other a lot, but there's this weird tension between them. Her dad is getting remarried on Christmas, which I have big feelings about. Don't get married on holidays. It's rude. It's rude.
No.
And so she feels obligated to go back to this wedding to this woman she's never met and her kids who she's never met. And Asher, his car breaks down and he can't get back home for his Christmas. And so they end up road tripping back to their hometown together. They end up staying at an inn because they get snowed in because it snowed in Texas. And there's one bed, but nothing happens. But it turns out he's been pining for her for years. And she uses him to escape the craziness at her family's house. So they spend a lot of time together. It was, so here's the reason why I didn't love it. It was so many bad life choices and awkward moments thrown into a book. It was just bad decision after bad decision, awkward thing out of your mouth, awkward thing out of your mouth. What are you doing? What's happening? And they got resolved really quickly, but just in time for the next one. So I didn't love it.
So it was it would get you to the top and then just immediately, there was no stability for any period of time.
Well, like, here's an example, and they're all like weirdly weird things. And like the villain of this story is Hazel's dad. Hazel's dad is shit. Like, he doesn't mean to be shit, but he's shit. He sent an email to her in the middle of her finals that was like, hey, the women are going to be wearing cranberry. Not you need a cranberry dress, but the women are going to be in cranberry for our wedding. And she's like, cool, whatever. Turns out it was, you need a cranberry dress for our wedding. She's like, how the fuck am I supposed to know that? Or he sends her an email that's like, hey, can you pick up soup on your way here? And she's like, no, I'm not going to pick up soup. You didn't tell me what. No, I'm not going to do it. But the reason she needed soup was they live in a community where not their house, but other houses are like those crazy Christmas houses. And the fee to get into the neighborhood is either food for a food pantry or clothes to donate. And she didn't get soup because he was just like, pick up soup. And she's petty and didn't want to pick up soup. And so she's like, well, shit, I don't have anything to give you. And like has to give her scarf that's literally like around her neck to the policeman outside to get into this neighborhood. You could have explained things. All right, next book is Prince of the Palisades by Julian Winters. This was good. I liked it. It's Jaden and Reese. It's not Secret Prince, but it is Prince. It's YA Loath to Love High School. He's royalty. And it's just a celebration of being queer and owning your identity. So Jaden is a prince. Ile de la Rêverie is the name of his kingdom. It is an island off the west coast of Africa. And he has just gone viral because he was out ranting about the prime minister of his country. Someone took a video of it, posted it, and he had just recently been broken up with by his boyfriend, who was, by the way, the prime minister's son. And his best friend, former best friend, was at the event, let him get videoed, and like ditched him the minute he was in hot water. So his parents are like, no, you have to go. You're in exile in America. You have to prove that you're a worthy prince and you have to go to school there. So he goes to this really bougie private school. He's one of the few people of color there. He's dealing with like all this, what kind of prince they want me to be, what kind of prince am I, what do I want to stand for? He meets this kid named Reese and they connect, but they have a bit of a loath to love where Reese was taking video at a party, and rightfully Jaden's a little gun shy of a phone and accused Reese of trying to videotape him and, get his name out there.
Yeah,
exactly. And they end up, the thing that I liked best about this book is it's YA, so we get no on-page spice. But the conversations that Reese and Jaden have about sex and intimacy are just top notch. So Jaden has had sex before and Reese has not. Jaden is Reese's first boyfriend, first kiss. And Reese does the very normal, oh, we shouldn't talk about sex. It's not sexy to talk about it. And Jaden goes, no, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
It is sexy. And if you're ever ready to have sex, that's great. And if you're never ready to have sex, that's fine. And I just loved how it was presented in this book. And it was such a great example for any humans, especially queer humans, to learn and remember that it's okay to talk about sex. It's important to talk about sex. You should be celebrated for talking about sex and consent and being ready for things. And that was just A+ for me.
Thank you.
But following that up with some more contemporary romance, it is Pardon My Frenchie by Farah Rashan. And this is, I know, it's Grumpy Sunshine, Loath to Love, Forced Proximity, Slow Burn, Black Love. And Slow Burn, the burn was too light. I mean, I just want more. I just want to like watch you fuck. So sad. But I will say that Farah Rashan, I read a book of hers that she wrote in like 2007 or maybe not that long ago, but quite a while ago. And I didn't love it. Liked this one a lot more. And so like I can see the growth in her as a writer. And so I'm very happy with that. Farrah Rashan also writes a lot of like Disney retellings. Like she's hired by Disney to write for them. So I do understand why maybe this book wasn't super, super raunchy. Like I don't know if Disney would be like, please write our Hercules book if you're also writing incredibly raunchy romance on the other side.
Yeah. Okay.
But
is there a dog involved?
Are there 2 dogs involved? Yes. So
like, there better be with that title.
Ashanti owns a doggy daycare. She has a Frenchie named Duchess, and Duchess's best friend is a standard poodle named Puddin. And like so many things, they have a live streaming camera in their doggy daycare, and Duchess and Pudding are like everyone's favorite, and a little clip of them eating one of Ashanti's homemade dog treats goes viral.
Aww.
Now, Puddin's original owner was an older woman who broke her hip and then had to go into a retirement home and can't bring Puddin with her. So her grandson takes ownership of Pudding, who is Thad. And Thad and Ashanti have a very tumultuous meet cute where Thad is like super rushed and emotional. He's like taking this dog. He doesn't want the dog.
Right.
He's just moved to New Orleans. What's going on? He doesn't like Puddin. He and Puddin don't get along. And so Ashanti's like, who is this man who is taking this precious baby who has been with us for a week while his owner was in the hospital, taking Puddin away. But then this video goes viral, and in order to capitalize on the marketing and the press, Ashanti needs to work with Thad to do appearances and a trip to New York for TV shows and podcasts and all of this stuff. Thad is also starting his own business and is like, well, I can use the marketing for me as well. And the more time they spend together, they realize some of that like banter, anger was the chemistry they were feeling, which they didn't want for each other, but they're dancing around it for various reasons. And then they don't. And there's this great moment where she's like, I can't look up at him because if I look at him, he'll see all the wanting in my eyes that I've been hiding. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's been a lot of wanting. And she has 2 teenage sisters that she is the guardian of. Her parents died. And so there's some teenage drama, but from the parenting perspective, he finds out some stuff about his family that causes some tension, except his grandma's the best. His grandma's the fucking best. Like, honestly, Grams, A+. I want to be Grams when I grow up. And it's very sweet. It's very sweet and as much, oh no, like there was, I think, I was expecting some of these decisions to have more dire consequences than they did. Okay. And so while it sets up some like, oh God, this could go so bad so quickly, it doesn't. And that was really reassuring. Like one of her sisters has a problem with a teacher at school. And I'm like, oh God, where could this go? With teachers and young women, it could go so bad. And it doesn't go there. Okay. And so I was like, okay, phew, good. And it was just really sweet at the end. Book number 12, Magic Burns by Kate Daniels. I am loving this series. So this is not yet a romance because this is a multi-book slow burn.
Oh.
Like, and we're just starting to, like, we knew it was going to be Curran based on their banter in book 1. Mm-hmm. But in this book, we get a little bit, like, Curran starts to really, you know, put his interest out there in a more concrete way. And she's like, absolutely not. But so this book it's P&R. She is not a mercenary. She was part of like the Guild Hunters. She now works for this other like paranormal protection group called the Order. And she ends up finding this young girl whose mother is a witch and is missing. Her entire coven is missing.
Oh no.
And these creatures start hunting this young girl, and so she has to protect her and get involved in like all of this magical shit that's going on in Atlanta at this moment, and you know, almost dies.
Of course.
It's so fun. She's so fun. She's so like sassy. I have already started the next book in the series. This is one of those where I might buy this series.
Really?
I am really loving it.
Nice.
Like, I'm really loving this. So we'll see how this goes. a little bit more. But like there's no my note is there's gore, there's violence, and there's no love yet.
What a note.
This is so great. Book number 13, The Moon and His Tides. This was another arc that I got. It's Gianna Darling, and I have read Gianna Darling before. I loved Lessons in Corruption, which is a book of hers. This is an MMF novel. An MMF queer awakening novel. It was so great.
Oh my gosh.
It's an age gap too. So Sebastian is the first point of view we get. He is 18. He's Italian. He's in London to become an actor. He's in a play and he has a screenplay that he's been working on for like 2.5, 3 years. In order to make ends meet, he is a driver for a high-end car company. So he takes, starlets and socialites around. And into his car one day comes Savannah, who is the wife of Adam. Adam is a world-renowned, not only like noble, he's part of the aristocracy, but he is a world-famous actor, a movie actor. And Sebastian is absolutely enthralled by Savannah. And they start this little flirt, and she keeps asking him to be her driver, requesting him as her driver. She ends up finding his screenplay and reading it. And she's like, this is amazing. They have this like encounter in the back of it, not in the back of the limo, but in the limo where he basically directs her to like masturbate in front of him. It's so hot.
That's so hot.
And then Adam shows up to the final performance of his play. And Sebastian's like, I'm about to get the shit beat out of me. Also, he's so beautiful. And Adam instead says, I have a proposition for you. Meet me in the back alleyway. Take Sebastian into this car, like get in the car, and Savannah's there, and they all fuck around. And he's like, we actually want you to date us. Yeah, in the back of a car.
Oh, God.
And I want you to, like a limo, not like a normal car, like a limo. I figured
it wasn't a normal car with the three of them.
Car. Yeah. So Sebastian fucks Savannah, and Adam is there to like direct the whole situation and says, we want you to date us. You'll officially be our driver. You'll live at our house, but you'll be ours. And we also want to produce your film because we believe in it. And then the other point of view character we get is Adam. The only points of view we get are Adam and Sebastian. And we watch for about a year. This goes on. This is not a finished book. It ends in agony, crying. I'm crying.
This is what I was told, y'all. This is what I was told, y'all.
It's a trilogy. And like Gianna Darling's so sweet. I like posted that I read this when it came out, and she like commented, and we messaged a little back and forth. And I was like, look, I trust you, but like, I don't know how you fix this. My soul hurts.
Oh, no.
Poor Sebastian. He's so innocent and wonderful. And oh God, it's just amazing. Also, like they are kinky as fuck. And Adam is a dom and a top. And like, oh God, it's so fucking spicy. I think it was like a 3.5 on my spice scale.
I think I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. So it's out. I think the rest of the series it's intended to be released this calendar year, but we don't have any other books with release dates yet.
Okay.
Then into Double Apex by Josie Juniper. This is her first book with Forever. It is a Formula One forbidden secret romance workplace situation with a second act breakup. That was the one I was like, oh, they broke up in the second act. They didn't wait to the third. They just broke up in the second act. It's Phaedra and Cosmine. Phaedra is an engineer, and she is also the daughter of the owner of this team. But she is a phenomenal engineer. She's like top notch. Cosmine is the new driver. He's a bit of a hot shot. She thinks he's a fuckboy, and she cannot stand him. And so not her dad, but the person running the team on the ground is like, y'all need to fix this shit up because like you're fighting on radio where everybody can hear you. It's not okay. Go to my house in Santorini for a week and like make nice with each other. And they kind of start a flirt, but like they start a flirt, but nothing happens. And then something happens. And then they
Right.
break up. And it's like, it's very angsty. It's like full of angst because Phaedra's dad is diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor and does
Oh,
pass
no.
during this story. And she believes that her dad didn't want her and Cosman to be together because everybody finds out about it. And they're like, you really shouldn't. And she's like,
Yeah.
I know we shouldn't, but we are. And it ended very abruptly. I will say, like, I wanted like 5 more pages for how it ended. I feel like we could have used a little bit more like time and emotional space. It's going to be a series. The second book sets up Phaedra's best friend and not the pit boss, that's not what it's called, but like the person who's in charge of the actual running of the team, like on the ground. They have a thing, and that's set up in this book, and their book is next. Book number 15, I listened to these next 2 as audios, and I think that's why I didn't enjoy them as much. I listened to 2 more of the Amazon Merriment Christmas novellas. The first one is Merriment and Mayhem by Alexandria Bellfleur. The second, All by My Elf by Olivia Dade. And I did not enjoy them as much in audio form. Number 1, I think because it's just an audiobook and that's me. But 2, it just felt, I don't know why, it like just didn't hit as hard. I think I imagine more when I'm reading than when I'm listening. So Merriment and Mayhem is about Everly and Griffin. Everly is trying to get her recently departed grandmother's house ready for sale, and she's a hot mess. Mess express. This story starts with her lighting the oven on fire while trying to bake gingerbread. And who should show up but the fire department, including super sexy Griffin, who is a firefighter. And then the next scene, he like flirts a little and she's like, no, I'm leaving. And then next scene is she's trying to put up Christmas lights, but her ladder broke as she was climbing up there and she's hanging onto the gutter for dear life. So he has to save her again.
Yeah.
And then I think finally they go on a pseudo date, and then there's a fire on the boat by the harbor where they are. And so Griffin and the fire chief, who they were just socializing with, go in to save people. She tries to save someone and almost drowns. She's just a hot mess. Yeah.
She gets into a lot of mishaps, sounds like.
A lot of mishaps. And I don't know if it's because this is the first one of them where they met and had a connection and then kind of got together, but it didn't feel as believable that she was like, yeah, maybe I just won't go back to Seattle at the end of this. And also because it's Alexandria Bellfleur, I was expecting way more queer. Like Alexandria Bellfleur writes about a lot of queer, and there was one throwaway line where Griffin says something corny and Everly goes, does that work on all the ladies? And he goes, and some men too. And I was like, ooh, more queer. But that's the closest we get to Griffin even saying I'm queer. Like, who knows? He's also very pretty. Men could just be attracted to him. So I was expecting, I think, a little more queer. Now with All by My Elf, it's Nina and William. And I think the thing that annoyed me about this is Nina is assuming that William and her best friend have started dating. They all work for this like cake company, and they're doing sales events around DC before Christmas. They sell like some sort of pastry that looks like a penis. I don't really understand it. But they're driving around, and she's assumed that William and her best friend Claudia are dating. Why? I don't know. They did not say they were dating. They're not physically affectionate. They're not kissing or holding hands or anything, but Nina is devastated because she likes William. And then she and William get snowed in together in the like fake RV big, like it used to be a Wienermobile, and then it got purchased and turned into whatever it is that they're selling. And they play Never Have I Ever. And he's like, actually, I love you. I'm like,
what?
Why did you assume that he was dating her? And he's like, yeah, Claudia's been trying to get me to like confess my love for you all week. I'm like, that's what you've been talking about? Like, Nina, what the fuck is wrong with you? So it just like
it didn't hit.
It didn't hit me because she's got all these weird things, but no evidence of it. And I'm like, you could have just talked to him. Just you put yourself through a lot of emotional agony for nothing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I like Olivia Dade. Like I like what she's written. And so that was disappointing. Following that, I read Temple of Swoon. Great cover by Joe Segura. This is the second book that she's written. It's in this world. It's Miri and Rafi. It is adventure romance, archaeologist FMC, trouble, forbidden romance, insta love / lust, and there's a lot of mortal peril and some nice plot twists.
Yay.
Miri is Corey from Raiders of the Lost Hearts, co-worker at Berkeley. Corey and Ford from the first book are supposed to be leading this expedition, and Corey has brought Miri along. Turns out Ford breaks his arm, and Corey puts Miri in charge with this other asshole dude with a little more experience. And then we have Rafa, who is the MMC. He's a journalist, and he's been sent down to capture this expedition looking for a lost city. But his dad is like, you have to protect the lost city and don't let them get to it. You're descended from the protectors of this city, and it's your job to sabotage this expedition.
So it's like a reverse. It's like a reverse of The Mummy.
Oh, kind of. I mean, except it would kind of ish, but Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz are not. No one's trying to sabotage the other.
No.
Yeah, but it is. It's like an adventure situation, and so they meet because they both miss the bus to get to where they need to go. And they have this like cute flirt on. And they're like, oh, I really like you. Hey, I'm going to be in this town. You're going to be in this town. I'm going to this town. I have this work thing. Oh, I have this thing. But maybe after we should get a drink and we should get together. And then it turns out that they're both there for the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And Miri gets promoted. And so they're like, we now work together. I'm like your boss. It's not okay. Blah, blah, blah. And it's just a comedy of errors and them trying to resist each other. I think their relationship was cute, but I didn't feel as much tension. Like there was such yummy, gooey tension in the first book between Corey and Ford, this loathe to love with longing. And with Miri and Rafa, they knew they wanted each other. They'd admitted that.
Right.
They're just like, I guess we can't. So it didn't feel as like ooey gooey stretchy. Like I wish we'd had a few more like moments where, someone trips and they're like suddenly really near each other and like they're breathing each other's air and they have to resist kissing each other. I wish we had a little bit more of that, but it's good adventure. The archaeology was good. The plot twists were fun. The cover spectacular. I thought overall, it was a good book. It just wasn't necessarily, I think because the first book, those tropes and that tension hit so hard for me, this didn't hit as hard. Book number 18 was Onyx Storm. I'm not going to talk about it.
I appreciate that because I haven't read it yet. So
I'm not talking about it. Look, here's what I'm going to say about Onyx Storm. I am very glad that it is getting people to read and getting people hyped about books.
Okay.
Like midnight release. There are midnight release parties, not just at indie bookstores, but like at Target, at Barnes and Noble. It's getting a lot of hype and it's getting people reading. What I want to make sure it doesn't happen is that's where people stop reading. Because I know people who have they're like, I read Onyx Storm and then I read it again and then I read it again. And I'm like, you could have read a bunch of other books too.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say about Onyx Storm. Book number 19, The Shots You Take. This is another arc. This is by Rachel Reed. This is a queer second chance, slow burn, hockey, friends to lovers, forced proximity.
Ooh, I love so many things you just said.
It's so great. So Riley and Adam were best friends on a professional hockey team when they were younger, and they used to fuck secretly. Riley knew he was gay. Adam just fucked Riley and was straight. And they are now in their 40s. They lost touch. They haven't spoken in 12
Huh?
years. Riley asked for a trade to a different city,
Oh,
went into a very deep depression and quit the NFL. He was like, I can't, my mental health can't take it. So
wait,
went back to
NFL?
his NHL, thank you. With the NHL, and went back to his tiny little town in Canada
Okay.
to heal, and has built
Yeah.
this really wonderful life with his family in this space. Adam continued to be an incredible hockey player in Toronto, I think. Doesn't really matter. He was captain of the team and he recently retired. He came out to his wife and they have since
Oh.
divorced. And he hears that Riley's dad passed away. And so he shows
Oh,
up to be there for Riley, even though they haven't spoken in
yeah.
12 years, and sticks around.
That's really
And
nice.
Riley worked with his dad at their sports equipment store. And Adam's like, I'm just going to show up and help you, whatever you need. I'll bring you breakfast.
Aw.
I will, like, do you need me to restock hockey sticks? I'll do it. And eventually, Riley invites Adam to stay at his house instead of the inn that nobody stays at where the beds are terrible. And they have all of this tension. And Adam's like, I mean, I've been in love with you this whole time, basically. And Riley's like, I thought it was over you. But the one thing I will say is while it's slow burn, and once it burns, they are very cognizant of their emotional health and the weight that this has. So they have a first kiss and it's like late, and Adam's like, no, I want to do it right by you. I'm not rejecting you, but like, this isn't the moment. I don't want this to be a random impulse. I want you, but I want you for real.
For real.
And they build toward something. I really enjoyed it. I like that they were older and they talked about, like Adam has a bad shoulder from his hockey days and, oh, well, can we do this position because of your shoulder and stuff like it was
Oh,
really like
that's like
sweet and wonderful.
that's really a weird thing to find sweet, but I'm just like, as someone who has like lower back issues and like issues with
Yeah.
my feet, I'm like, I love it when my partner checks in with me like that.
It was so adorable. Riley also has a dog, so if you like an adorable dog, we've got one. And we also see Adam kind of figure out like what does it mean to be queer
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really well done. Rachel Reed writes a lot of I believe, has a lot of hockey stuff. And it was nice to see also that they're older
Yeah.
men falling in love in their 40s.
Right.
It's great.
Right.
Super great. I went back to Golden Angel. Just needed something else.
Yeah.
Bondage Buddies. So can you imagine what this is about?
Let's think.
So this is Bondage Buddies. This is the first book of a series. The last book in the series recently came out. So if you want a completed series, here you go.
Yeah.
This book is Domi and Mitch. Mitch is an established dom at these two clubs. There's them, it doesn't even matter what their names are. And he was part of Domi's sub training class. He was one of the instructors for that like worked with the subs. And Mitch doesn't believe in relationships and blah, blah, blah. But he wants a partner in kink. And so he says, Domi, do you want to be my bondage buddy? We're not dating. We're not emotionally attached to one another, but we kink. And she goes, sure. Is lovers to romantic. She's also a single mom. There is a third act breakup, but it's really about found family. So Domi is a single mom. She's got a 6-year-old to a really great co-parent. It was a result of a one-night stand, and they've just always been co-parents, and it's worked really well. So she's not looking for a relationship either, but she does kink when her daughter's with her baby daddy. And it goes on for a couple months, and then she starts to get feelings, and she goes, no, I got feelings. I can't be with you because you don't want feelings. And then he's so bummed out about the breakup that all of his friends are like, you like her, go date her. And so they date. And he kind of thinks that kink is the answer to a lot of relationship problems. He's watched his parents go back and forth. Will they, won't they? They got divorced, but they get back together. It's like this constant push and pull, and it's very emotionally trying for him. And so they're finally giving this dating thing a try when he finds out that his dad, who's in town for a visit, is there to speak to one of the club owners, because he doesn't own a bar, he owns a kink club, and his parents are actually kinky. And so this Band-Aid he thought would protect him and Domi's relationship is actually not a cure-all. And he's like, no, we can't be together. That's it. Just a lot of kink. Book number 21, another arc. Hey, remember when I read her Very Sexy Christmas and I went, oh, I wish these had books for every holiday? Guess what? She wrote her Very Spicy Valentine and I got to read it. I cannot tell you how quickly I signed up for that arc. I cannot even tell you. So Theodora Taylor is the author. This is book 2 or novella 2. They're really novellas. You should read the first novella because the first novella is about Noelle and this is about Holly, her sister. Okay. So Holly is wondering where the fuck her sister went. She got this call, I'm coming to see you in Vancouver. And then she gets a call, actually, I'm going to hole up with these men that I've fallen in love with in the mountains of Canada. Don't worry about me. I'll talk to you in the spring. And Holly's like, nope, that does not fly with me. So she drives to Bear Mountain and is promptly turned away because it's wintertime and all the bears are hibernating except for some of the single bears who are still awake and taking care of things. So she goes to the Mountie's office. Mountie's like, sorry, we can't help you. Shuts the door in her face. She's like, well, I'm really hungry. I should get some food before I go search on foot for my sister on this mountain. Is she crazy? Yes. She walks into the bar and then 2 dudes start a fist fight over her. They get pulled out by the Mountie who just shoved the station door in her face. She's like, what the fuck? She's like, I'm going to go find my sister. 2 biker dudes who were in the bar follow her. She's running away from him. And then a bear shows up, beats the shit out of the 2 guys following her and, of course, bites her.
Of course.
And turns her into a bear.
Of course. Please tell me it's the Mountie.
Yeah, he is. My bear has never done anything without my permission except you because we're scent matches. Of course you are.
Of course you are.
And that's actually why the 2 dudes had the fight in the bar, because Leaf was like, you're my scent match. And it was a biker dude who just got out of prison who was the other guy, and they got in a fight. And oh my God, there's a lot more emotional angst in this story than there was in the first one. So like, be prepared. Okay. Holly has an ex. She was divorced because she couldn't get pregnant. Her ex-husband absolutely shanked her in the proceedings. So he kept the house and she pays alimony and he's a new girlfriend. He's trying to get pregnant. It's really shitty. So of course she becomes a bear and goes into estrus, and then they're all trying to get with her and get her pregnant. And they're in this cave that the Mountie is also the head bear from the first book's brother. The guy in prison is another brother for the first mall. So there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of brothers separating into these 2 sisters.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of emotional baggage that needs to be healed. Book number 22 was Wisteria, and it's the final book in the Belladonna series. I listened to this on audio, and this book takes a very sharp turn. So book 1 was just about Cigna. Book 2, we started to get Blythe's point of view. Mm-hmm. And book 3 is primarily from Blythe's point of view and her loathe to love interest, Aris. We met Aris, who is also Fate in the second book. And Blythe, he believes Cigna is the reincarnation of his late wife. And tries to steal her from death, and Blythe, realizing that Fate is going to fuck some shit up, manages to kind of trick him into marrying her instead. So now they're married.
Oh.
And they're stuck with each other, like magically bound to one another. And they just kind of try to make each other super miserable at first, like really miserable.
I love that.
And then eventually they start to get along and get to know each other. And there are other mysteries that have to be solved. And like, it ends in a way that I wasn't expecting, but I'm also not mad about it.
Yeah.
Weirdly, there was some spice that was described in this book. I was not expecting that, considering nothing was really described. It was more like lightly implied in the first two books.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was a very satisfying ending. This series as a whole was more like easy background listening than something I felt super invested in.
Okay. Remind me who wrote that series in that book?
Thank you. Adeline Grace.
Okay.
And it's a single narrator, which I think probably made me like listening to it more than a duet. Because at least we get consistency. And she was a great narrator, like really wonderful job.
Okay.
Yeah, she did a great job. Because even though, you're doing your boy voice, you're doing your boy voice the same way for everything.
Which I think is really good. Like, you're not trying to make it super obvious that different characters.
Yeah, the thing with duets is like you're not doing their voice. Like I'm listening to them and then I'm listening to you do a bad job of being them. So I think for me, single narrator or duet or a full cast is really the way to go. But in general, I'm not, you know me in audiobooks. So I am listening to an audiobook right now. And I'll talk about it next month. Book number 23 is That Prince Is Mine. And I'm also not going to talk about it because it is our book club episode, which goes live on Valentine's Day. My friend Caitlin joins me as we read and talk about that book. It's by J.C. Lee. It is a secret prince slow burn romance. So you're just going to have to come back on February 14th for that episode. And then I ended with book 24, The Broposal by Sonora Reyes. And this is my first book of hers. It is a queer awakening, friends to lovers, fake engagement, but like fake dating, but real engaged. It was great. We've got Han and Kenny, who have been best friends. Though there are some trigger warnings in this book. There is immigration shit. Han is there illegally. And so there's a lot of tension and drama and threats made against him. Mm-hmm. Kenny is in an abusive relationship with his high school girlfriend, Jackie. And I mean like emotionally and physically abusive on page.
I don't like that it's abusive, but I like the representation that women in the relationship can be abusive too. Because you don't see that in mainstream material, like hardly at all.
It's true. And I have the same feeling. Like, I'm so sad that this is a thing. I'm so glad that we're talking about it and that there wasn't this... because there's also the machismo of like, no woman could hurt me and blah, blah, blah. Jackie and Kenny are dating. Jackie basically says like, we need to get married. So Kenny says, sure. And then Jackie, who's been jealous of his relationship with Han for forever, says, you have to pick me or Han. And Kenny goes, Han.
Yeah.
Immediately, Han. Bye. Get out of my car. We're not getting married. And
good for him.
I know. And so he's now single. They're talking about it and they're talking about, the drama and the thing of Han being illegal and all that puts on them and everything that it means for him that he can't do, that he's unable to do. And Kenny goes, why don't we get married? We were voted, even though we're best friends and I was dating Jackie, we were voted most likely to get married in high school. Let's get married.
That's brilliant, to be completely honest.
So they decide to like be fake engaged. They live together too. They get fake engaged, like real engaged, but fake engaged.
Yeah.
And then start to plan this wedding. And then Jackie shows up and she's like, I'm pregnant. And so you want to know what? Han's like, I'll raise your baby with you. Don't worry about it. Like, we've got this. And Kenny luckily does not go back to her. He's like, I'm not going back to you. Like, I can't. And then when Jackie's like, you have to break up with Han. Like, I want us to be a family and you can't be with Han. If you don't, I'm going to call ICE on him. Like, this book has been planned for months and months and months and months and months, but like came out in January of 2025. So like very sad that it's incredibly relevant. Like, everyone go read this book. Everyone go read this book. And that is how I ended January of 2025. Dear God, it's February of 2025. I'm glad that it's February. I'm sad that it's February, because I feel like it's just not going to get easier. But I also hope that you got some ideas of books to read and books to try. If you think you have a really good recommendation for me, send me a note, put it in the comments. You can send me a note, email, social media, all the thing. Still haven't figured out how Tome works. It went live. I did. Like, opened it and I went, don't understand it. I'm closing it right now. So that's where we are with Tome. That's probably the least effective way to get a hold of me. But technically I am there. And if you want the extended episode, you can join me on Substack, where our membership lives. If you are interested in our book club, which has our first meeting in March, we'll be reading Court of the Vampire Queen. That is also on Substack. I'm so excited for that community to grow. Our first newsletter went out already. You can see, I think, most of the books that I bought in January, and that roundup video will go live on YouTube sometime this month. But thanks, y'all, for joining me. Thank you, Sephi, for listening. And I hope that you have a great reading month in February. Bye.
Bye.
Jace Reads Romance is a 3 Paws Productions podcast. Produced by Sephi, edited by Michael Achenbach. Our theme song is written and performed by Diana Weishauer. For show notes and more, head to www.jacereadsromance.com. That's JAYCE Reads Romance. Follow us on socials at Jace Reads Romance everywhere. For more exclusive content, visit us on Substack, where you'll find extended episodes, bonus episodes, and more. Have a question, story, or book recommendation you know I'll love? Email Jace at jacereadsromance.com. or call and leave a voicemail at 661-JACE-RR. That's 661-529-2377. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And as always, this is Jace, holding space for you.